Thai anti-government protesters have started a demonstration in Bangkok earlier than planned. They say they did this to avoid confrontation with royalist groups. Today's anti-government demonstration marks the anniversary of a 1973 uprising that brought down the then military government. It's also the protesters' fourth rally in just as many months. A few hundred protesters started gathering at Bangkok's Democracy Monument at 8 a.m. local time, instead of 2 p.m. as initially planned. And that's after pro-royalist groups said they had planned gatherings near the anti-government protest. Anti-government protesters have been demanding a new constitution, the departure of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, as well as reform of the monarchy. Now, our correspondents Saksit Sayasombat and Mei Wong are on the ground to bring you all the latest developments. And let's start with you, Saksit. Where are you right now, and also what's the situation like over there?
We are in front of Democracy Monument, where the protesters have staged their rally stage. Right behind me, if you can may see, is other trucks with the loudspeakers, where for hours since the early morning, activists and protest leaders have been talking and addressing the crowd that has gradually grown over the day. My apologies. And as you just said in the intro, they came here earlier than expected. They were supposed to come here at 2 p.m. local time, but they came in here at 8 a.m. in the morning out of fear, out of concern that counter-protesters, royalists, might actually come here earlier to squat, to occupy this ground. So that's why they're here. The demands are all the same. They're still demanding for vast political reforms of the political system, including a new constitution, but also for reforms of the monarchy that is, at least officially and just until very recently, being held in official high regard and almost sacrosanct. But now, ever since they have called for the 10 demands to reform the monarchy, the loyalty of the royal institution is being tested here.
Well, Saksit, can you tell us a bit more about the significance of today's protest? Can we also expect it to escalate into street violence the way it did before the military coup in 2014?
October the 14th, that is on this day in 1973, we had a student uprising that ended the military dictatorship of Field Marshal Thanom and also ushered in vast political changes. Now, that is during a very different time, a time where a fear of communists was still very high. All those vast changes, though, an experiment with democracy, all those came undone very quickly a few years later in 1976, when the return of said Field Marshal Thanom to Thailand has sparked more protests, but those have been cracked down with lethal force by government security forces and by right-wing militias, and that later went down into the history books as the Thammasat massacre. Until today, no one has been held accountable unto that. And so the concern by some observers is that, yes, history might repeat itself. This is not the first political street protest of either side of the political divide. This is not the first time that protests have descended and have escalated into chaos and violence, and this is also not the first time that this has been used as a pretext for the military coup, as recently as in 2014. And that is exactly why, one of the reasons why they are protesting here, in order to come out and to say, let's end this cycle of protest, democratic elections and military coups, enough of that. But those protesters are not the only ones here on Democracy Monument. My colleague, CNN correspondent Mei Wong, is on the other side of Democracy Monument with some counter-protesters there. Mei, if you can hear me, what more can you tell us?
Right, Saksit. Well, the situation here is rather calm, but just a couple of seconds ago, there is a skirmish over there, and that caused all the media representatives to run towards that area. At this moment, I can't see with my naked eye as to what's going on, but there just might be an altercation between the pro-government royalist supporters who are actually on that side of the area here with the anti-government protesters who might have been coming together. Well, the police have really been keeping a close eye on this, and they've really prevented this from happening until this very moment. I just want to also show you the fact that you see the ones wearing yellow shirts, they are the pro-government supporters, they are the royalists who are actually saying that the protesters are here because they are trying to destroy the country. In fact, the people in the yellow shirts say that what they're doing is wrong. They say that Thailand is a democratic country and that Thailand is doing very well right now. Obviously, that that's counter to what the anti-government supporters are saying. At this stage as well, you can see all the police officers are lined up on this particular street. Well, the reason is because this street is going to lead them all the way to the government house, and that is about a 15-minute walk from here. And so obviously you can tell that the police are getting ready for anything to happen, and also a possibility that if the protesters are coming from this way, the police can actually create a human wall and block them from proceeding beyond this road here. So there is that possibility. At the end of the day, the demonstrators and anti-government protesters are asking for three things, and three things only. One, for Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha and his government to step down and call for fresh elections. Two, for a complete change in the constitution because they deem that undemocratic. And three, to reform the monarchy, having 10 demands of the monarchy, namely to say they must revoke the lèse majesté law, which criminalizes the criticism of the monarchy as well as the king. And also another demand is to reduce the budget that's been allocated to the king and the palace because it does not reflect the current economic situation of today. Now obviously you see a lot of the pro-government royalist supporters out here because they just want to show that there is support for the existing government and they don't want to see any of this being destroyed, in their words.
May, thank you so much for that update. Our correspondents Success Sayasombat and May Wong reporting live from Bangkok.